Zoom. But all right. Press record in 3, 2, 1, record. And then clap in 3, 2, 1, clap. Hello, and welcome to Sutro Sidetalk, episode 198. I'm your host, Kamran Shushtar, and with me is
James Seelig.
How are you doing today, man?
Doing okay. I mean, feels good to be recording because I don't know, we keep taking like breaks and not really like talking about it. It's just being like, yeah, we'll get to it eventually.
Yep.
Yeah.
I'm doing good, just working. I got my Gosling's hat on, which
You're what?
Gosling, you know, the rum.
No.
It's got the sea lion on it. Oh, okay. Yeah, I got this hat in Bermuda. I just remember
Okay.
Miles, who's been on the show before, it's like, yo, man, you gotta get a Gosling hat before you leave. And I was like, okay. So that's why there's like a little
That's funny.
flag there. Otherwise, I'd never wear that flag. But yeah. This is Sutro Side Talk. We talk about what we watch and play. This week we are talking Ahsoka. I know it came out a little bit ago, but I think it wrapped up sometime in October, so it's not that far away.
Yeah.
We are scrapping what we were going to do for The Witcher, just because that kind of got older faster. And instead, I can just tell you guys right now, our second to last episode will be on Godzilla -1. So that'll be a much more recent one that hasn't actually even come out yet. It's still not coming out for like, I think 2 more weeks or something.
Yeah. We already have plans to see it 2 times.
Yep. We're going to see it the special preview night. So on Wednesday, the 29th, which is its initial release date is December 1st. So it's 2 days early. We're going to watch it in IMAX on the Metreon, which apparently is the only night you can see it in IMAX because I think Beyonce fucks up everything.
Oh, yeah,
after
you mentioned that.
Yeah. Which I have nothing against Beyonce. It's just weird that I guess after the Taylor Swift like put the concert in the movie theaters has been more successful than the actual movies in the theaters. They're just like, okay, let's do it again. It's just kind of sucks when you just want to watch a movie in the best quality and you're like, oh, I guess you have to watch a concert in there instead. And I'm sure the concert's good, but I'm just like, bro, I just want to fucking watch a movie.
I don't know if that's worse than the time that like Chris and I wanted to see Dune in IMAX and it got knocked out of IMAX in like a week by like the Eternals.
Yeah,
which wasn't even that great of a Marvel movie. Yeah.
I mean, I'm gonna be honest. I don't know which one was worse to me, but that's just me personally. You already know I'm not a fan of Dune.
At least Dune had some cool like moments. Like I was straight up
I like the
laughing
sand
when
a lot.
Icarus
Yeah, it was really
like
great that
flew
they
into
couldn't
the
get real
sun.
sand.
I was like, no, they're doing it. Icarus flew too close to the sun, literally.
Yeah, it was really. I didn't like either of them. They could both run.
Yeah.
But otherwise, the second time we're going to see it is going to be like on December 3rd in 4DX, which will be our first time in that type of theater, a Regal thing. And for those that don't know, 4DX is where the seats are like a ride, practically. So what better movie than Godzilla destroying everything? Like, it's going to be quite an experience to say the least.
Supposedly they'll even like spritz water in your face a little bit, like for certain scenes. So like I could see Godzilla like coming out of the water and just like, gotcha.
It's so crazy. My popcorn's soggy now.
That's a good point. Yeah.
I mean, we'll see how it goes. We'll see how it works. Also, forgive me if you hear just random sounds. It's like the back of my hat is kind of hitting the chair a bit, so it's like yeah, but hopefully you guys don't hear it much. Yeah, so we're gonna have fun with all that stuff. And then the final episode 200, is going to be a 2023 in review episode. So, you know, top games, shows, movies, that kind of thing. We're gonna do those 3 and just kind of go through it, which I know is going to be kind of weird because more or less we just kind of stopped half of the year through practically. Like after June, we just kind of died off for a bit. We're still going to go through stuff. There probably will be things on the list that maybe we didn't even talk about on the show thoroughly. We probably won't, unfortunately, but like, you know, that's just kind of how it's been going recently. For those that don't know, if you didn't tune into last episode, the Barbenheimer episode, where we kind of explained everything, I can run through it again. Episode 200 of Sutro Sidetalk is going to be our final one. That's kind of why we're taking time going through it. Also, life got really busy. I've been kind of going through different jobs, not in a bad way, but just in like things are happening faster than I expected and changes. And because of that, it took a lot of attention away. And also at a certain point, you get a little exhausted and fatigued.
Oh yeah.
And so I guess I needed the break more or less, too. And so much so I realized because of this, I have not kept up with any like media news involving like games and movies at all. I just kind of like fell off of it. And they're like, "Did you see the new trailer for blah blah?" And I'm like, "When did it come out?" Like a week ago. And I'm like, "Oh, no."
Wait, so have you not seen the Madam Web trailer?
No, I did. I did.
Oh god, it looks so bad.
Now you were asking me before this, what was it? If it looks worse than Morbius, which I still haven't seen
No,
Morbius.
Craven.
Craven,
So
okay.
we've seen one trailer for Craven too, and oh god, why?
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense.
What if Craven was an animal conservationist and wants to hunt poachers? Like, well, that's not Craven then.
Yeah, it doesn't really. Sony's just like
Ugh.
make money off Spider-Man properties. Madam Web looks. I think what threw me off was I'm like, what direction are we trying to go here? Because I looked at the IMDb. Adam Scott is Ben Parker. Who the fuck is Ben Parker?
Wait, Uncle Ben?
No, I don't think so. I think this is like you could almost say like because if you noticed, like Madam Web is protecting these three girls that turn into spiders.
Yeah, it took
One
me a
is
couple watches of that trailer to realize that the girls were the
Spider-Woman.
same Spider Women.
Yeah, it's like Spider-Woman, Spider-Girl, and I didn't know who the third was, but one of them in it was actually a character. Probably one of my favorite spider characters is Anya Corazon. She's a Puerto Rican Spider Girl who I think I mainly appreciate because she came before all the Spider-Verse bullshit, which I know a lot of people love it, but it's just too, it's too oversaturated with spider shit in Marvel now, and it's just kind of annoying. I'm not saying the animated movies are bad. I love those. I'm just saying in comics specifically, and how it kind of just like came out and did a lot, and I'm just like exhausted. It basically turned me off of Spider-Man completely. And Spider-Girl was back when it was like, oh, here's like one of the few other spider characters, and she actually just did her own thing and was had like an adventure with Red Hulk and shit. And I'm like, oh, this is kind of cool. Okay. Whereas like there's like what's his face, Kane, the second Spider-Man clone who becomes the second Scarlet Spider. Like he was really cool. So like I like these two characters specifically because they just kind of don't get involved with the rest of the spider stuff, or at least they used to not, and then they got swept up in the multiverse shit too. But the trailer,
it looks like CW Final Destination.
Yeah, it kind of does. It's like you see them, and then there's two Parkers in it. One is, I think one of the girls is a Parker. I could be wrong. So she could be like another Spider Girl, kind of like, in the alternate universe, there's like a May Parker kind of thing.
What if Peter Parker's mom was actually Spider-Woman before he was?
Well, no, it's like the daughter.
Yeah.
So
wait, but this movie takes place in the 90s.
That's why it's confusing. I guess it could be just Uncle Ben and Aunt May. When they're younger, which is just kind of weird, but also the fact that I don't know. None of it makes sense. Nothing makes sense.
Yeah.
I haven't watched Morbius. I don't know when I'd watch Craven because I'm more just curious of how this fits in with like specifically Venom.
Yeah, I don't know because
you don't have to explain it. I know, but like it's more of curiosity and for science than anything. And I already know I'm like these are probably going to be awful. Meanwhile, they're like, we're resuming filming on Venom 3, and I'm like, okay, that I'm looking forward to. I like Tom Hardy. He does a good job always. But yeah, anyway.
As much as I think those movies could be better, I still enjoy them.
Yeah.
Just I love Venom so much that I'm just like, it's still kind of cool.
But yeah, more or less, I saw the Madam Web trailer, looked at the IMDb, and just kind of looked confused and like, what the fuck is happening? And that's about it. That's really, I was like, why are we doing this? But yeah, so show's ending at 200, like I was saying. The plan is to reboot, do like a soft reboot. We're also rebooting Sutro Sidewatch. And that's going to be our new kind of like flagship show where James and I will talk movies and television specifically. No more anime. It's just going to be like more concise. And it'll be twice a month for that show. Because the way we're going to do it is we're going to try to do a show every week. But the shows will be different. So like that one will be twice a month because we usually have mostly like shows and movies to talk about anyway. 1 month will be a new podcast called Sutro Sideplay. That'll be about gaming. So we'll talk usually about like a featured game that we'll focus on mainly, and then other stuff we've been playing recently, whether it's something we completed or not. We'll just be like, yeah, I've been playing this kind of thing. But that's where you'll probably find when we'll talk about things like Spider-Man 2, Hogwarts Legacy, the like Ghost of Tsushima, Horizon 0, like Horizon 2, like DLCs, and a bunch of other stuff that we haven't even touched yet, or like stuff I haven't even played yet, like Cyberpunk, Outer Worlds. There's so many games to talk about, and it'll be games that just came out, but it'll also be games that are older too. Like
Dude,
games
my
as
backlog
old
is
as
so
like
long.
yeah, mine is still back to 2019. So
I'm like getting
like,
this close to like convincing myself to buying a Steam Deck so I could just like work on my PC games while I'm like watching shit or whatever.
yeah, I think the oldest games I'll talk about on the show will eventually be like Outer Worlds and Death Stranding, and then maybe like some indies that are just older, but those won't be like the headliners of the episode. It'll be like, oh, I finally played Night in the Woods, which I've been meaning to play for years, or something like that. But that'll be the show, so that's gonna be monthly. And then the third show, which will take the other like the fourth slot in the month, will be the Cut of Steel, which is going to be basically more standalone now instead of just being part of it. So initially, we're not going to probably have any new episodes for a bit. It'll be all pretty much like new, like the other episodes we have out, I'll probably push out first. I'll like throw out 3 episodes at once, and then from there, like put them out at a faster duration than I normally would. And then once it's more caught up, then we'll start like getting out new episodes. So if you've seen them all or watched them all, sorry, it's gonna be a re-release first, and then you'll kind of get new content. Probably the first few episodes that will be new will be like a stated like DC interview 2023 kind of thing, where I'll probably get Frank from Coffee and a Comic again on, because he liked doing it last year.
Yeah, that was a fun episode.
We'll do that, and then we'll also, because kind of still, like I said, I want to, besides just movies and stuff, we'll want to do comics and other things, animated shows, games, even for like Arkham games and whatnot. But the thing is, we do want to finally tackle a lot of those movies we never got to from the DCEU. So we'll probably hit those up, which are probably like 5 or 6 or 7 of them now, which is kind of crazy. So it'll probably be mainly movies for a bit, and then once we're all caught up, and we're not going to have another movie after Aquaman 2 for a while, we'll probably have time to like get to other things too, but we'll see how it goes. But that's the plan for Cut of Steel. That'll be the third show, and then the other 2 plans might be to put ads in the show just so we can finally make some money and not lose money off of this. And when I say make money, I don't mean like, oh, finally I'm going to have like extra money to spend on things. It'll be cool. I'll finally be able to pay for what I've been like spending money on the show for. So basically like Zoom and Podbean are like the main 2. I just want to like pay out, like basically break even and not lose
like have the
money.
show sustain itself, basically.
Yes. And that would be with ads and also a Patreon potentially. And I've never done this before, and I'm gonna be honest, I still haven't had a chance to work on it. The plan is to come back some point in January. I don't know if we'll get that in time, but I'm gonna do my best to. It's just with everything else going on, it's kind of been crazy. Like right now, there's painters in my house that are gonna be here for 3 days. So it's just been kind of all over the place. But with the Patreon, I'm gonna be honest, we're not gonna have anything physical to give out to people. It's gonna be more like, if you want to support us, you can. We'll say your name at the beginning and end of the show, depending on what tier you are, and ad-free episodes if we end up actually doing ads and things like that. The big bonus will probably be if we do decide to do a Patreon, we'd have 1 bonus episode a month, and it'll probably be one of 3 different types of shows that will just rotate, like basically 3 different shows each quarter. So each every 3 months you'll get a new episode of that specific show, and they'll kind of rotate through them, but we'll see how that goes too. It's all still being decided kind of thing. But more or less it'll be James and I for everything. We'll have guests on certain shows and whatnot. But yeah, that is the plan. If you want more information or if you want to keep up with things, really it's just gonna be on Instagram. To follow us there at Sutro Sidetalk. That's where you're gonna learn about stuff. At least like where I put out promos and everything else, even though it's like Instagram's kind of dead when you're just putting out non-video content. But yeah, that's pretty much the plan. But all right.
Remember when Instagram was about pictures?
Yeah, it was a good time.
Yeah.
With that being said, though, let's just jump into Ahsoka, which is our topic for today. I don't think it's going to be it's going to be a conversation. I just don't think it's going to be like an hour and a half long conversation.
Yeah, no, one of the weird things about this show is I was surprised how kind of like meh I was on it in the end. Like I liked it, but I was super hyped for it. So I was just shocked that I didn't come off of it as hot as I'd like.
I think there's a few reasons for that.
Yeah.
I will say I wasn't at home when I was watching it. I was working on something for a new job, so I actually had to travel for a bit. And
wait, did you watch the whole show while you were like traveling? Or for work, or
I think I watched like 2 episodes before I left, and then when I was at like the hotel, when I had very little time, that was like what I kind of put my time into, was just like I'll just watch this while I can. Pretty much I fell behind on so many shows, like every show I could think, every show that was on FX, like Always Sunny, What We Do in the Shadows, Mayans, a bunch of other shows too. I just fell behind. Everyone's like, oh, have you started watching what was it, The Boys Gen V? Have you watched Invincible? Have you
just watched that.
Have you watched The Witcher? And I'm like, no, I haven't had time. I just haven't. Which is crazy. I used to be the like first one to watch these things. Now I'm the last. And I made time for like to watch, just keep up with One Piece, and then that was really it. I was like, if I could just keep watching One Piece, which is, one episode a week maybe.
Yeah.
Usually there's a lot of other stuff, but Ahsoka was like the one thing I'm like, if there's one out of all these different shows I'm behind on, I haven't had a chance to watch, which one should I watch right now? And I'm like, you know what? I haven't cared about anything coming off of Disney for a while, but this might be like the only thing I kind of want to watch. Like I still haven't, just to keep in context, guys, I have not watched Secret Invasion. I have not watched Loki season 2. I am probably not watching Marvels in theaters. I'm just like marveled out a bit, but also I think it's just Marvel came to a point where I don't care anymore. And I will watch it, but it's no longer like a thing that's at the top of my list of I got to go watch these, because they just don't look like they're worth they don't look like they're worth putting ahead of anything else that I have to watch at this point. They're like much more kind of going to the back end of everything, where it's like, oh, well, once I finish all these, maybe I'll get to that kind of thing. I'm not even like, I think there's like 20 shows, to be honest, like actually, that I'll probably watch before I even get to Secret Invasion and Loki at this point.
I think the only reason why Loki ended really well for me is because it felt like they wanted to tell a story from beginning to end, and they got to do it. And they got to do it, and it's like, oh, that was a good full show, instead of everything else where it's like it has to go on forever. So nothing ever feels like important or anything. Like at the end of Secret Invasion, I was like, the fuck did I just watch? What the fuck was that?
Yeah. So for Ahsoka, I was pretty excited to watch it. I at least wanted to make time for it. I was also really exhausted when I'm watching it. Yeah. So I'm just like, well, that was interesting. And I wasn't like amazed by it at all. I was just like, that was cool. It went. I think it was just so much more, I guess, intimate than I expected it to be. But I guess we can get to that in a later point when we talk about the story itself. But I guess the first topic I wanted to go over for it was, Dave Filoni started with the Clone Wars, really. The cartoon, the second Clone Wars, not the micro series, that I still think is probably my favorite Star Wars. But he started with the Clone Wars animated series, and from there he did Rebels. I don't know if he did Resistance. I still actually never watched that one.
Yeah, I never heard anyone recommend that. So
one
of
my friends recommended it, but also they love Star Wars like unconditionally a bit. And so he pretty much did all that, and then he started doing live action stuff too. He did the Bad Batch as well. I think he also worked on Tales of the Jedi, but like, he came in with Mandalorian, Boba Fett, like working with like Jon Favreau, Robert Rodriguez, and whatnot. And everyone really likes the stuff he's doing. And now like we come to fruition with Ahsoka, which feels like a lot of it led up to this for him, because Ahsoka's more or less Dave Filoni's baby, where it's like, you look at George Lucas and he created the trio. He created Luke, or I guess he created Luke, Leia, Han, Darth Vader. Like those are all Lucas creations that he had. Obi-Wan as well later on with the prequels and whatnot, the Emperor. But for Filoni, when he started with Clone Wars, Ahsoka was that character that was of his own like fruition. I don't know if Lucas created her or he did, but basically Filoni's the one that raised her, in terms of like watching her progress through all these shows, like watching her in Clone Wars, going from just a very hated Padawan that none of us fucking liked, because she sounded annoying as hell.
Well, she was like way too childish. I know she was literally a child, but like it was really hard to get past the part where she kept calling R2 like R2E, and it's like,
I wanted this.
But it's that you're saying it's a longer name. You're giving him a longer name. That's not a short name.
I wanted to fight somebody for it. I was like, this show sucks. This movie sucks. The Clone Wars
movie. Who approved this?
Yeah, it was not good. And all of a sudden, like it went from I don't like this to this is incredible, and you're just like, holy shit. And she went from I would compare her, the one other character I can probably compare her to is Damian Wayne in the comics, who's Batman's son, and he starts off as this little shit, and you hate him, and then once he becomes Robin to Dick Grayson as Batman, he becomes one of the most loved like Bat characters.
Everything I've seen of that dynamic looks like fucking amazing.
It is. So with Ahsoka, you watch her go from like little shit to just sheer amazement, where they finally do the final season and have her go through Order 66, and you're like, dude,
she's literally one of my favorite characters in all of Star Wars, which is why I was like so hyped for this show before it came out.
It's amazing. Honestly, I would almost say Filoni and Lucas did a good job of making her shit in the beginning, because it gave her that much growth in that process at the first. It's one thing to like someone from the start, but like love them after, but it's something even bigger to hate something or not like something at all, to then love them a lot more than you ever expected to. That does, I think, say a lot more in that sense. So seeing him go from start to finish here, which it's not the finish, and he's not leaving or anything. He should stay there until he dies, to be honest. It's like, it's very awesome to see how far he's come, because she's animated and now she's live action. She's being played by Rosario Dawson, and it's something that it seemed like he fully, like Mandalorian, Jon Favreau did a lot of it too. Boba Fett, Robert Rodriguez did a lot of it too. But this is this is Dave Filoni's. Like, Ahsoka is the one he wanted to do, and he got to do it. And it really just says a lot that it actually fully happened and came out.
Yeah.
The big thing about it too is it's a direct sequel to, I wouldn't say direct, but it's like it pretty much is a direct sequel to Rebels, which
it literally just felt like the next season of Rebels. They just did a live action show instead of animated, which was interesting.
And with Rebels, for those that don't know, like, Rebels is the more or less show that came out after Clone Wars. It came out like, where Clone Wars was a Cartoon Network show for the most part. Rebels came out in like Disney XD. And like, for those that don't know, it looks, when you put it next to Clone Wars, it looks like shit. I'm not.
It's like a similar style, but yeah, it's just it's not quite as good.
You're kind of looking at it like, I thought Disney had more money, and then you realize how cheap. Like, I mean, we've seen it now in every facet how cheap Disney is in terms of for a company that boasts so much money, they lack the investment in quality now because they become so much they become penny pinchers at this point, and it's kind of crazy to see that happen. And you're like, wow, they really don't know how to deliver quality anymore. And
no, it's all about content,
and the content isn't quality either, which is the funny part.
Yeah.
And so the Rebels, like, I think the best example is look at Bo-Katan. You know, you guys love Bo-Katan from Mandalorian.
Yeah.
Look at her in Clone Wars, and then look at her in Rebels, and you're like, what are they doing? How did this happen? But you know, we're not going to get into that more. But Rebels, you know, it's about the characters that are rebelling against the Empire before Rogue One, before the original movie and stuff. And it's got like Kanan, Hera, Ezra, Sabine, and Zeb, pretty much.
Chopper.
And Chopper.
Dude, Chopper's like the fucking best droid.
And so, you know, by the end of the show, Kanan dies, who was the Jedi, and Ezra becomes a Jedi himself, and pretty much like gets taken away by whales, along with Thrawn.
He also had an interesting, like, every Jedi is like a little bit different in like what they're particularly good at.
Ezra's is like the nature of the Force.
Yeah, he seemed to be able to literally commune with animals to an extent, which was really interesting.
And pretty much like it ends up where there's an epilogue, and it's like Ezra's been like lost in hyperspace because of the whales, along with Thrawn and his fleet, or I think one ship. I think it was one ship, and pretty much like the rest fought in the rest of like the original trilogy's fights and stuff. And you see like Hera had Kanan's kid, Zeb pretty much just does more rebel shit, and we even see him in an episode of Mandalorian.
It's so funny to me that Hera's kid is just straight up human with just green hair. I thought she like adopted a kid at first, and I was like, oh no, he's literally just her kid. Whoa, I totally forgot that they had a kid.
It's funny too because there's a Clone Wars episode where a clone actually like deserts and makes a family with a Twi'lek woman.
Yeah, and they're just straight up Twi'lek.
They look much more Twi'lek, and it's just like, okay. Yeah, so it's like, damn, Hera's kid just got fucking gremlin or something. I don't know what happened.
Yeah, he just got the green hair pigment. That's it.
Yeah. It's weird. It's like, you should have just looked Twi'lek kid. You want to look better, I guess. I don't know.
Also, apparently he's like also super strong with the Force, which I guess it makes sense.
Yeah.
Seems to run in the family usually.
And we can definitely talk more about that at the end. There's some stuff I do want to talk about just like going forward with this universe. But you have all them. Sabine kind of does her own thing too. And now you have them coming back here, but now in live action. And you're transitioning from animation to live action with all these characters. None of them have been live action before. I think you get Chopper for like a second in Rogue One, which is funny. You do like get a little Easter egg at one point.
Yeah, I must have missed that.
You also get Hera.
I don't think I wrote.
You also get the Ghost. Hera's ship is in Rogue One too.
Oh
yeah.
I don't know if I watched that show before. I saw Rogue One. So I might have just like not
you watched Rebels after Rogue One. I remember because you more recently watched Rebels, and then you watched Rogue One when it came out. I know these things. But like, it's cool getting like, was it Mary Elizabeth Winstead as Hera, and
she looked perfect.
She did fantastic. I was just like, holy shit, you guys pulled it off. I can't believe it. And I forget who plays Sabine, but like, you know, Ahsoka is played by Rosario Dawson, which is insane. And we already know, you know, we've seen her in Mandalorian, or no, not Mandalorian, Boba Fett, technically.
Yeah.
Where she shows. Oh no, she also shows up in Mandalorian.
Yeah, she showed up in Mandalorian 2,
and then Boba Fett after that. And
that's where he got the Beskar spear.
Yeah, because of what's her face.
Yeah.
Natasha Liu Bordizzo played Sabine. That's what it was.
Right.
And then of course we had a new character, Hugh Yang, which was the Jedi trainer robot, which was David Tennant, which is funny.
That was so funny.
It was just like, all right, but I think in terms of animation live action, with the way they looked, the way they acted, I think they got it down perfectly. I think we got everything we could have wanted.
Yeah.
Especially like, we look at Ahsoka and it's like, well, she was a lot younger in Clone Wars. Well, luckily she shows up in Rebels as well, and she's older. And Rosario Dawson's version does, like, even though the voice is substantially different in terms of like animated to live action, it still works amazingly. Like I can't unsee Rosario Dawson as Ahsoka now.
Yeah,
like, it's
that's
solidified. It
works. It was like perfect casting.
Yeah. And so in terms of casting, in terms of visuals, aesthetics, everything, I think they pulled it off greatly. And I have no complaints. They did good. Filoni knew exactly what he was doing with this. In terms of, I guess, the villains, really, that's where things get a little bit different. Not in a negative way, but it's just, you have more original villains. You also have someone finally becoming live action that has been highly sought after forever. And, it's not as good as it could have been, but that's also because they're never going to be as good as they could have been. I mean, it's not a predetermined thing where I don't want to be that guy that's like, it's not going to be as good as the old version, blah, blah, blah. But the way they've been doing things, the way they have, like, look at the fucking sequel trilogy, I don't think they're going to pull off something as good as the books of the Heir to the Empire trilogy.
The
Thrawn trilogy actually is, I guess, the Timothy Zahn books. And whether that you get the real Thrawn shit, you have Mary Jade Skywalker. It's so insane. And then this is much more like, we have them in Rebels, and they do a good enough job where it's like, I'm going to exploit the Twi'leks through their culture. That's how I attack them. And he's still the same type of character. It's just not as big because it's like, I love the Rebels and everything else, but they're not Thrawn status like counterparts in a fight. If you think about it, like, who does Thrawn go up against in the Thrawn trilogy? It's like Luke and all the others. Like, that's the thing. You have the main characters of the entire universe going up against him. And in this, you have characters that aren't necessarily named. They're really cool characters, but they're not the same, like, stature of importance that I would consider, like, worthy adversaries for him, if that makes sense. I don't know if I'm, like, overreaching for it, but honestly,
no, I mean, kind of, because, like, the whole time, like, basically this entire season boiled down to the main characters trying to find a way to prevent Thrawn from coming back, because he is literally the greatest threat to the entire galaxy.
Yeah,
not just the Rebels, because if he comes back, he might actually have enough, like, pull with, like, the remnants of the Empire to get people, like, organized enough to actually represent a threat to the New Republic.
Yeah, because don't forget, like, the Empire by the end still was like a vastly large contingent against the Rebels. Like, they still outnumbered the Rebels technically.
Yeah,
it's just they lost, well, their two flagship vehicles. They lost the second Death Star, they lost the Super Star Destroyer, they lost Darth Vader, they lost the Emperor. So pretty much you cut off the head of the snake, and you also took off, like, their two biggest, like, weapons and modes of just power.
Yeah.
And that's why I was just like, well, fuck. It's like the whole thing of, like, Coruscant, I believe. I could be wrong, but I think this is still canon. Like, when they take down the Emperor statue at the end of the 6th movie, there's a riot, and basically all those people get, like, shot at by stormtroopers. Like, there's still, the Imperials are still in Coruscant. So it's not like it immediately goes perfect right after that. Like, it's a whole thing.
No, I mean, we saw in The Mandalorian that there's, like, a bunch of basically warlords left over from the Empire that are, like, fighting for, like, what's left of, like, the galaxy, I guess.
Yeah.
And there's literally, like, one dude who's like, yeah, but what if Thrawn comes back and, like, reunites us all to, like, a common goal? Like, oh, that'll never happen.
Yeah, what was it? Moff Gideon's like, shut up.
Yeah.
And then he dies. God.
It's happening.
But yeah, Thrawn is Thrawn. Like, the whole thing, if I recall in the books, like, he gets like an old Republic, like, dreadnought fleet or something crazy. I forget what it was. but it was like a whole thing of like he comes back with this old ass fleet of ships, and he's like, "Yeah, these are some ancient, powerful ships. I'm gonna use these," and everyone's like, "Oh fuck," and stuff. But for this one, he's like, "I'm stuck," and he's like, "Yeah, we're just kind of stuck here. We've been surviving. We need
I
to."
did appreciate excuse me. I did appreciate that, like, to get his Star Destroyer back to like the other galaxy, like the Star Wars galaxy, they had to build a giant hyperspace like ring like Obi-Wan
And
had
bring
to
it in.
use in the original
Yeah.
movies.
Yeah. And they had to bring it in. Like, it's like I have to build it from the outside and bring it inside kind of
Yeah.
thing. Otherwise, he was stuck there.
That was super cool.
I think the coolest thing, too, was his, think about how his stormtroopers and his people looked before. And then after this, like, they're like so much
I
more
love that,
hardened
like,
and like
all the touches that like they've clearly even with like almost no hope of ever returning home, they still were trying their best to like maintain their armor and weapons and shit and just like keep it together.
Yeah. I thought the design for all that was really cool, and I think they did a good job of like trying to make it as real as
Dude, the
possible
one
in terms of
stormtrooper with
time.
like the gold Centurion face helmet was like, I don't know why there's only one of them, but that's fucking cool.
Oh yeah, that was what was his name? Captain something. I'll have to find it. But yeah, he was really cool looking. And the ship itself just looked interesting too, because it's like, did they paint the ship? I can't remember. Or was it just like
I
just
think they might
damaged and
have.
old?
I mean, it's
Uh,
definitely damaged and old. Like part of it was like a bunch of panels were missing and shit because they were just like, well, we don't have the resources to like go out and basically instead of trying to find new resources to maintain the shit that they had to maintain, they just were like strip mining the unimportant stuff from like the whole of the ship to basically just be like, well, we need metal. We don't need all of these panels.
yeah. And the captain was Captain Enoch, was the
Mm,
guy. So yeah, they were really
very
cool.
biblical.
Yeah. What was interesting too was the planet was in a proto Night Sister planet, apparently.
Yeah, that was also interesting. I thought it was going to be like completely abandoned, but it's like this is apparently where the Dathmiri and the Night Sisters might have come from. Like apparently there was a whole like empire in another galaxy.
Which is also crazy too, because just the thought that Dathomir isn't their home world. It is their home world
Yeah.
now, but it's not their like biological like spawning ground or whatever. Which is, and then you get like ancient Night Sisters, and you're just kind of looking at it like, how out of touch are they with like the Night Sisters that were on Dathomir? Were they exactly the
Yeah.
same, or were they a
Were they
lot
able to
different?
like commune through their magic or something, like intergalactically?
Yeah, and then you had what's her face, Morgan, Elspeth, I think
Yeah.
Morgan. She, like, you don't know she's a Night Sister at all until this show,
Yeah.
and you're like, what?
Yeah, there's some times where like Dathmiri women are just like regular looking, or I
Well,
guess
I
they'll
think
just look
she's
like
the
a normal
first.
human.
Yeah, this is like the first case we get
No,
of that.
in Jedi Fallen Order, there was like one other Dathmiri character that joins your crew, and she literally just
Are
has
you talking
like
about
regular
Marin?
hair. Yeah,
She
I
looks
think.
fully Dathomir. She's like pale as hell and
Well,
everything.
she is, but it's like she doesn't look like well, I was gonna say Ventress, but I guess Ventress also just looks like pale, so never mind.
Yeah.
Ignore everything.
But like Elspeth Morgan, like looks regular. She doesn't. She doesn't
Yeah,
have like white pale skin or anything like that until like
until she like accepts the
she gets activated.
yeah.
Yeah, no, that was like, oh shit, and then she's like, I'm dead. But I
Yeah,
think
that was disappointing.
Elspeth was an interesting character of like, it feels like a cool samurai episode when she shows up in Mandalorian season 2 when she
Yeah,
fights Ahsoka that
I
time.
literally forgot that was the same character until like
Yeah,
after the show, and I was like, oh wait, yeah, what? Oh,
and having her again now, she's more there. I guess she felt like more of a not a political villain, but like an intrigue villain, I guess.
yeah,
Because once combat really happens, she gets like, you already know she had no chance of winning. She kind of like knew she was gonna die staying behind kind of thing, and you're like, oh yeah, you're fucking dead. Like you're not gonna survive this.
yeah. Even if
Um,
they give her like a magic Death Miri sword, she's just like not gonna defeat Ahsoka.
Yeah, there was zero chance. It's like, bro, how are you gonna beat the I really liked how they kept going like you're the Padawan of Anakin Skywalker. Like that really says a lot. And you're like,
Yeah.
oh shit. And you're
Dude,
like
the moment where Thrawn like looks up Ahsoka's file and he's like, her master was Anakin Skywalker. Okay. like he knows.
he's like, I got everything I need. That's
Yeah.
all I needed. I'm like, he's like, okay, cool. And I feel like also he's like, of all the people, I feel like that's the one that would have joined me the most if it's like the apprentice of Darth Vader kind of thing.
Yeah.
But she's her, and that's not gonna happen. Uh, then we had the Night Sisters were cool and stuff. We don't really have to talk more about the Nine Sisters or Elspeth,
No.
I think.
Well, the show didn't talk about them much. It's like,
Yeah,
oh, they're
no,
here.
there's not much to say. But the two I honestly thought were the most interesting and the best, uh, I guess, displayed of the villains were Lord Balin or Balin's Skull and his apprentice Shinhati.
Yeah.
And honestly, fuck, I wanted a show about them. I was like, I don't even care. I'm like, I like everything here, but these are without a doubt the two coolest characters. And it makes everything even more tragic because Balin's actor, Lord Ray Stevenson, I was gonna say Lord
Yeah.
Stevenson, Ray Stevenson passed away
Yeah.
after the show. And
Because he
I'm like,
did so good.
he did so good, and it's like, dude, we're not gonna get any more of this. That sucks unless like
They're
they
gonna have
recast
to
him.
recast this guy or this character because like literally the teaser at the end of this season was like him going off doing something, maybe contacting like the father of the Force.
Oh, is that what you were
Maybe,
thinking with it?
maybe. Well, because that was like that was like the teaser they showed was like the statue he was like standing on was
That
like
is true. I
the
forgot
the
that it's
sister,
like
the brother, and the father or whatever.
what a
So
fucking insane
they
episode they did.
have to use that
That is
character.
some deep Filoni stuff. Like when you go
Yeah.
back to that Clone Wars episode, you're like, did we just come to the beginning?
Yeah.
Oh my god, what insanity. Yeah, they have to recast him. I think they can. It's not like Leia where it's, I mean they recast. I hate to say it, but they should recast a lot of these main characters. Because if you're trying to go off of just like we're gonna spend $1 million just on making Luke look young, make Leia look young and real, and I guess even Han now too. How the fuck are we? They're just ignoring them for the duration of these people basically become completely useless after Return of the Jedi and won't show up until the sequel trilogy,
Yeah.
and that's it. And that is one of the reasons why I was just like, everything sucks. And just knowing what adventures they have in the Legends books versus what they have now is just, it's
Luke
just,
tried to make a new Jedi school, failed, and then ran away and never came back.
wow, what an interesting story. That's so cool, guys.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think they should start recasting people. Like it's like, oh no, Billy Lord was in the sequel trilogy. I don't give a fuck. Make her Leia. Like bring back what was his face? Walden Emmerich or whatever, who played Han in the Solo movie.
Yeah.
Like make them slightly older. Sebastian Stan, make him Luke Skywalker. Like just do these things, and we
Dude,
can
like
finally
those
continue the fucking characters we actually care about. I'm not saying I don't care about Ahsoka and all these ones. I love them, but no one comes close to those original three. Like,
yeah.
give us our adventures we want with them. It would make 20 times more interesting content.
Yeah. No, I mean those I back when Luke showed up in Mandalorian season 2 or whatever, like people did deep fakes of like what would it look like if Sebastian Stan had played him, and it's like, dude, he straight up just looks like Luke.
Yeah.
That is ridiculous.
And it's like, what is Mark Hamill gonna complain? Like, bro, he fucking charges $500 at Fan Expo. Like, I don't care what he says. He's got money. He's fine.
Yeah, that's fair.
Like, it's like I love Mark Hamill. I mean, he didn't even like the sequel trilogy. He fucking hated it too.
Dude, it's so funny to see the interviews of him going like, yeah, I don't think they got it right.
I feel like he'd be understanding of it. And if you
Yeah.
ask Harrison Ford, They're like, what the fuck are you talking to me about this? He's like, get out of my face. I don't care. Like Harrison Ford does not care.
Yeah.
He does not give two shits.
The fuck's a Red Hulk?
So there's that. But yeah, back to these two characters. Lord Balin, the fact that he's like a Jedi from the Clone Wars, and he survives Order 66 too, and it's like, hey, look, guys, another Jedi survived Order 66. There's like 80 of you, aren't there? He's like, they keep coming out of the woodwork apparently. But he's like, he's like, I get we fucked up, so I give up on being a Jedi, but I'm not a Sith either. It's like you don't really know what he is. He's just kind of there. He's like
I don't think they straight up said that he was trying to be a gray Jedi, but that's like essentially he was trying to be neutral about the philosophy of using the Force. Yeah. And he's just like, well, I'll just use it because it makes me powerful.
And their lightsabers aren't even red. They're like,
yeah, it's like orange.
Yeah, which is really cool.
Yeah.
And the fact that he isn't even he's not going the Sith. Like you never feel it at all that he's going to the Sith.
Yeah.
And you see Shinhati, who is his apprentice, his Padawan. She even has the Padawan braid. Like,
oh, I didn't even notice that.
Kept a lot of that philosophy.
Yeah.
And I'm like, why? I think it's like the Finn effect, kind of, where there's this really interesting concept that sounds so cool, but they don't understand that they have a piece of flawless gold in their hands.
Yeah.
And they just kind of put it to the side and go, that's not what we're talking about. It's the thing where we had Finn as a stormtrooper turn cloak becoming a Jedi is such an interesting concept that they just threw out of the window. And now we have a Jedi who survived Order 66, becomes gray, but still upkeeps a lot of the philosophies to then train a Padawan. And it's like, we're going to make them the antagonists and probably not going to be the main characters of this story. And it's like,
yeah, it's so weird that they're like one of the most interesting things in the show and they're just like a side thing.
Yeah. And so Ravi Stevenson did a phenomenal job as Balin Skull. Shin Hati, played by Ivana Sakno, I had to double check that. Did a really good job. I think Reese Stevenson, I'm not even saying this because he passed away. I think he did the best job in that entire show. I think he was the coolest character in that entire show. Everything about him just seethed cool and just
because like every time, yeah, exactly. Every time that he was on the show or on screen, I was just like, I want to know more about this guy because like he's working with the Night Sisters to bring back Thrawn, but he says he doesn't care about the Empire. Like he's not going Sith. He's not trying to do something evil. He claims that he's doing all of this for like a greater purpose. Yeah. And so I was just like, I need to know what this guy is doing. Because if he's doing all this shit, bringing Thrawn back and maybe like leading to the deaths of like millions of people across thousands of worlds because of like the war starting up again for something good, like what does he see is like worth all of that?
Man, I'm really sad this dude died. It just, oh my God, I can't believe it.
And that was the thing. Like every time he was on screen, I was just like, this guy seems like he sees a bigger picture than everyone else is seeing. And he just doesn't need to like bring them in on it because he's like, they're not important to my vision.
I really hope whoever they bring on just has that. I don't even know if it's charisma. Just it's like the sternness or something. I don't know how to describe it, but he was probably, I'm gonna be honest, I think Lord, in terms of just an interesting type of character, like I love Bo-Katan because of her legacy of all the Clone Wars shit. It's really cool. Same with Ahsoka. But like in this one, they're like Ahsoka's just a lot more contained, I think is the word I'm gonna say for it, which we'll talk more about the heroes later, but I think that's what kind of held back a little bit was there was just so much more containment in terms of her specifically as a character. Like you kind of get more emotion and everything else from Sabine until like there's a key part of the show that we'll talk about that's like probably the best part of the show besides Balin. And I think like besides him, I'm looking through all different shows. Andor had interesting characters, but just in terms of a character I want to follow afterwards. Like Mandalorian is cool because he's a mysterious gunfighter, but you already know kind of what you're getting out of him. You're getting adventure. That's what you're getting out of him. Him, I'm getting character. And that's something we haven't gotten, I feel like, in a long time from, if I'd honestly put him in, like, in terms of a dude, I just want to know more about his character. It's like, he's probably up there as like a top 10 type of character in this universe now. Just in terms of just, I need to know who this guy is. I want to know who this guy is. He seems like he lived a more interesting life than more of the other characters, because it's like, hey, I went a different route again, because it's like you go to Jedi Fallen Order. Hey, this dude also survived the Jedi Order, the Jedi Purge, and he's on Dathomir. Join me, Cal Kestis, and we're gonna fucking do weird, crazy shit on Dathomir.
Yeah,
I don't even wear a shirt anymore, and it's like, oh, we gotta kill this guy. He's fucking weird.
Yeah, he's gotten a little lost his mind.
The dude walked into the restaurant without a shirt on. He's got to be dealt with. Uh, so, you have that guy, and then you have him, and you're like, yeah, I'm more on the, I'm in the Balin train right now, guys. So phenomenal character. I think, like I said, stole the show. Easily the most interesting character. Shin Hati, at least we get to have same actress next season. I do want to see a lot more of her, and see what's going to go on, and it'll be very interesting to see who they recast him as, because they have to stop being afraid of recasting people at this point. Like, I get it, you want to use your fucking CG stuff that still makes him look kind of half stiff and stuff, and you have to have Luke completely covered to make him work well. Otherwise, he's just kind of there like, greetings, and you're like, hey, Luke. But yeah, okay. Moving forward to the next topic. This one I just want to do a quick, before we get to the other characters, music talk. The Ahsoka theme is probably one of the best themes we've gotten in a long time, I think. It's the credits theme that plays each time. And it's composed, with the rest of the soundtrack is composed by Kevin Kleiner. And he's the current composer. He was a composer for Ahsoka. He also composed all of the Clone Wars, including the Clone Wars movie, Rebels, and a few other things. So he's kind of the one who, in this world where we now don't have John Williams anymore, I'm not saying, he's still alive. I'm sorry, I didn't mean it like that. But he retired. Indiana Jones was his last movie he was going to compose for. That was his finale. And he's, made all these iconic songs for Star Wars, all this music that's been amazing. But, ever since he left, which he also did the sequel trilogy, which, like, he kept going. And after that, we've gotten different composers for different shows. I don't actually know who did the Mandalorians, which, the Mandalorian theme is amazing too, but it's such a distinct one that just kind of hones in on him specifically. Whereas I think Kevin Kleiner understands, is probably the closest to John Williams in terms of having an overall understanding of this world and each different type of theme for other characters and everything else. And the whole thing with, like, the Ahsoka theme, it kind of combines Hera, Sabine, and Ahsoka's stuff in one, more or less. Like, I think he actually took stuff from the Rebels music and kind of put them together a bit more, along with Clone Wars, and then made this.
Because I mean, they're so similar, or like literally tied together shows. So yeah, I could see the themes bleeding together.
He should be, if they're gonna come back with more theatrical cut films, especially if they're Jedi centric, he should be probably the one that's gonna compose for these. He should be doing the features when they come out. I think this is the dude that picks up the staff that John Williams put down. They could have other composers for other small projects, for other series and stuff, but anything I think that Filoni has his hands on, Kleiner will be there. And I think, like I said, though, anything that's going to be on a big screen, he should be the one that's going to do it. I feel very strongly about this. But I just want to say that. But like I said, I think Ahsoka's music for that theme goes up, like, in terms of the Disney era music, I think the 3 songs that have really hit off are the Rey theme that Williams did in episode 7, which, you know, is probably the best part about that trilogy. The Mandalorian theme, and now the Ahsoka theme. I think those are probably the 3 best songs we've gotten out of the Disney era Star Wars, which is kind of crazy to say because what Force Awakens came out in, like, what, 2013 or something?
Yeah.
So, or 2014, one of the two. I think it was like 2014. Maybe it was 2015. I don't remember. But pretty much almost for a decade, I feel like there's only like 3 songs I've really liked, which is kind of crazy. I feel like there should be more by now.
I'm like struggling to remember any other like themes that like pop out to me. I don't know. Because literally every one of the characters of the original trilogy has their own very recognizable themes. So it's just weird that I was just like, what is Finn's theme? Does Finn even have a theme? I don't know.
What is that theme he has when he walks out of the bacta tank or whatever in his little naked bubble suit? Boom, there you go. Fucking getting tased by fucking
It literally, every time I think of how much they wasted Finn as a character, I get like actually mad. That's hard to do for me.
Yeah, oh my god, gotta appease China, you know. If there's another reason why it wasn't even just China, it's just like, if it's, I mean, already that's a bad enough reason, is like, but like if there's anything else, I'm just like, you guys had gold and you fucked it up. You guys actually could have done a good job.
Yeah, like a force sensitive turncloak stormtrooper. Are you kidding me? That's like the coolest thing I've heard in like years.
But I guess into the heroes, like each character kind of had a 1-word role. If you notice what I put there, it's like Sabine goes rogue, Ahsoka gives chase, Hera politics, and Ezra, I'm here, I'm found. It's like and it's funny because it's like, oh, Zeb wasn't in this. He was only in that one like Mandalorian scene. And
that was
like,
so weird that he showed up in like, I literally thought that was just like another one of his species, not literally Zeb.
No, there's a species, I'm pretty sure. I don't know if they're still in hiding, but yeah, they like left, remember?
No, I totally forgot about that.
Yeah. But
yeah, I think Sabine was my least favorite character in the entire show.
I'm gonna agree with that.
I just like I thought she was one of the coolest characters in Rebels because she literally has to learn to like re-accept her family that she basically just like left because she didn't want to be a part of the whole Mandalorian wars and everything. So like I just thought she was a really cool character in Rogue or Rebels.
Yeah.
And in this show, I'm like, why is she so like anti like following orders? Like she literally doesn't listen to anyone, no matter how good of advice they're giving her. Like literally from the moment that Ahsoka shows up and is like, hey, I maybe have a map here to Thrawn, and I know you want to find Ezra, but like we need to figure out a way to like destroy this shit. And Sabine's like, she literally tells her, don't take this anywhere. Like this is like the most important thing in our possession right now. And she just immediately takes it and she does figure out how to open it herself.
And we get Ezra back. And it's like, what happened? Oh, Thrawn escaped. It was like the one thing we didn't want. This was the one thing we didn't want to happen.
Like, was it worth it, Sabine? Was it? And I also I thought it was such a weird, like out of left field thing that Sabine was being trained by Ahsoka to be a Jedi. And I was just like, and Chris had just watched Rebels, like, cause he had apparently never watched the show and actually like did it all to like get ready for Ahsoka. And I asked him like, was there any part in the show where Sabine shows any aptitude to the Force or any interest in learning to be a Jedi? And because I don't remember, and he was like, no, there's zero indication of that. So that was weird.
The closest they come to it is Kanan training her to use the Darksaber, and that's only because they want her to use the Darksaber for literal political purposes, and that was it. Otherwise, there was nothing else there, and I do agree that she was the weakest character in the show. I also think that, or at least of the heroes, I think also that she doesn't need to be a Jedi.
Yeah.
I mean,
Also,
I'm not gonna lie. It was funny when they first created her concept, and you look at her and you're like, "That's the Mandalorian," and you're like, "Oh, it's like the it's the designs are just like, what the fuck is this?" And she grows on you a bit, but she was never, when you go like, who's your favorite Rebels characters? I don't know. I'm sure there's some people, but like Sabine's not going to be the one I go, Sabine. It's going to be like, yeah, Kanan or Ezra or probably Hera.
yeah, she was probably like middle of the list for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I personally love Kanan and Hera the most. Those are probably
Yeah.
my favorite characters. And then Ahsoka showed up, and I was like, Ahsoka and Maul showed up, and I'm like, you know what? Never mind. These are my favorite characters. I like
Yeah.
the crazy old Dathomir man and the fucking
I
like
thought
disgraced Padawan.
so I thought it was really weird that they were trying so hard to, like you said, she doesn't need to be a Jedi. So I thought it was really weird that they were trying to force her to learn how to use a lightsaber when that's really not how Mandalorians fight with like sabers. They
And
use
she
ranged
kept switching
weaponry.
back and forth anyway.
Yeah.
Like so many times, and I'm like, all right.
And so I was like, and she kept trying to use like force push and stuff, and it somehow she figured that out by the end of the show. But I was just like, you know, learning how to push things is not the most useful thing that Jedi can do. Like one of the things that make Jedi so dangerous in battle and stuff is they are extremely perceptive.
Yeah.
They are just able to perceive everything around them better than everyone else can, and that's why they're able to like block blaster bolts with their lightsaber, not because they like are really good at tracking the bolts with their eyes. They just can like feel what to do, basically. So what if they taught Sabine how to do that? Instead of teaching her how to use like force push and shit, teach her how to use like incredible perception to just like one shot everything with her blasters. Just like know where to shoot without having to see it. Like that would have been really cool to see. But instead they're like, no, traditional Jedi.
I think it's also funny that they kind of Mandalorianize her, like
Mm.
Din in this one. Like Din is like, I'm literally wearing plot armor. With the
Yeah.
Beskar, he just literally he takes more hits than I've ever seen anyone take in a Star Wars thing, where it's just like, oh, this is natural now. This is how we explain all of it. It's not like sheer. It's not no knock against him, but it's just funny seeing the sheer. If I didn't wear this, I'd probably be dead, because
Oh yeah.
there's not the skill of avoiding everything and surviving like the other characters do that aren't even Jedi. They're like, I'm just that skilled that I can like move around in combat and not get hit and shit. And if I do get hit, it sucks. But otherwise, I get through it with sheer skill. I don't have this shit on. I just have to do it. And I think that's probably the biggest like I'm not knocking Beskar, but I just think it's overly utilized. And for Sabine specifically, also seeing her in Rebels, not really ever taking hits, right? She doesn't like get
Yeah.
shot and like is standing there like I'm like a giant mute shield. It's fine. Blah 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 blah. In this one, all of a sudden she's like, yeah, I could take hits, whatever, and like is getting shot at constantly too, and just like kind of taking it. And I'm like, did she always have Beskar? Like, was that it? Because it's her
I
same armor.
guess.
It's her same armor from Rebels, but I guess she just lacks the now that I'm a Jedi, I suck at fucking dodging, apparently. I guess that's how it works. I don't really I think that's the only issue I have with the way I guess Filoni's been doing it, is I really wish he'd take this into like just understand this kind of thing. It would make things more, I don't know, I'm just getting tired of people just standing there getting shot at. It's just kind of annoying. It's like, at least with the Jedi, you're like, bah, 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 bah. This one's just like, and I'm like, oh my god, I'm just, all right, I'm Beskar out, bro. I'm a little Beskar out.
Mm.
Um, but otherwise, besides Sabine, like Hera, I think had a very interesting utilization, because they're using her. She's not really getting to be herself. I think that's one issue I had with the show, is I feel like they're more just bridges to the Star Wars world, or at least Hera is. They're like, we're gonna use Hera as an example of how Star Wars politics are in terms of like the New Republic. She's just gonna be a foil for the New Republic. She's not actually gonna have that much other kind of involvement really, besides like trying to do some other shit. But it's like, oh, this is how the New Republic Congress acts and stuff. Here's this shitty chancellor who apparently I think is
dude, everyone hates that guy.
One of my friends, the one that told me to watch Star Wars Resistance, apparently there's a character in it that's the son of that guy.
Oh.
And that's why I guess some people recognized him, because he is in the show too. And it's like the son's like, I don't think my dad's that great of a politician kind of thing. Like it actually is like that, where he is like a denier of the Empire. And obviously it's like, hey, I think he gets blown up because the whole system gets destroyed by the Super Omega Death Star, the Star Killer babes.
Yeah.
So.
Oh yeah, that's what it was. People were like, I hope he was there.
Oh, did people say that?
The planet exploded. Yeah,
I think he was. I think they like have him explode.
It was kind of interesting to see like Hera going from Rebels and being like basically the one who's like in charge of the crew, and like she's the one who rushes into danger head first every time because she's the one that has to, and she's like the best pilot in the fucking galaxy basically. But in this, like, besides the war's Luke. Over. Yeah, besides Luke. And I guess, well, Anakin's dead.
And Han.
Yeah, she's a very good pilot. But
and Wedge.
Is he still around?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, shit, he is.
Nice shot, Lando.
I totally forgot about that. Yeah. But it was just interesting to see like the war's over. Like she's been basically promoted to general, so she's not the one going like, in the she's not the one leading the charge anymore. She's the one behind the scenes, like, well, not exactly behind the scenes. She's the one like doing the politics, like you said. And it was just interesting to see her like hating it. It's just like, I don't like all this red tape. I just want to go save my people. And I know where they are and how to do it, but the politicians are saying like, no, you have no proof that this is important.
And then Mon Mothma's there just like, fuck.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh my god. Yeah. I think Hera needs better utilization next season, or at least I hope she gets to be herself next season is what I want to say. I just want to see her be a pilot and do crazy stuff and be a general. I think that's cool that she gets to like command a cruiser and stuff. But yeah. Ezra, I think they did good casting for Ezra. That was really cool. Yeah. I think his character, I think they got him right. I think they did good with Ezra.
I thought it was so cool that because he was stranded without his lightsaber and he had no way to build another one, he just seemed to spend his time. Well, one, he like got friendly with the locals and they're just like cool with him, which is cool. And he just focused on his force training.
Yeah.
To the point where he was straight up able to like block a lightsaber swipe with just the force. He just straight up held the lightsaber back, which was one of the coolest effects in the show because you're seeing like the force blow the saber, like a kind of it's God, that was cool.
Yeah.
He literally is just like, I don't need the lightsaber. The force is my only ally.
Also, just side note, Baylan was stronger than Ahsoka, huh?
I guess so, because she seemed to never be able to like best him.
Yeah.
I think she straight up like ran away in the last fight.
She did.
Yeah.
Yeah. Baylan was, yeah. And then Ahsoka.
But to be fair, she was also like, I don't have time for this shit.
Yeah, she didn't. But otherwise, like Ahsoka herself, she was fine throughout the show. It wasn't like nothing to really talk about until there was.
Dude.
And I think what they got
right
here is what they got wrong in Obi-Wan, where in Obi-Wan it was just like a look, and you're like, the fuck was this, bro? And then because you're like, oh, here's one little training snippet because fuck it. But this,
dude, for the first time I watched that scene, I forgot that this show takes place after he's dead. So I thought the whole thing was just like the Force talking to her using Anakin's form, and then after I realized, like, no, we've seen he has a Force ghost. That's really him talking to her. And I was just like, oh my god.
I just love this is who he chooses to go back to. It's just like
Yeah.
I
Hey,
can finally talk
Snips.
to my son and daughter. Nah. I gotta talk to my Padawan. It was so good. They did like DH him a bit, and they got him. What's so cool is this is the first time we're seeing him in the Clone Wars armor that he has in the show.
Yeah.
Because, you know, he never really gets to wear this stuff in the movies. So it's just really cool to finally get that to happen.
It was also really cool to see him go back and forth between like light and dark Anakin.
Yeah. And it's all just to test her. It's all for her. Like he's not actually going evil and stuff, but I think the best shot of the show by far is just him walking through the storm with, and it's funny because you see what fight that is. That's the fight on Ryloth, because the Twi'lek rebels are there, and I'm like, dude, that's so cool that they chose to even like do that, because you have Twi'lek rebels and clones running towards like the fight, and him walking there too.
Also, were those like practical clone troopers too? It's like one of the few times we get to see those.
I think so. And oh my god, it looks so good. It's amazing. And then just the Darth Vader lightning strike for a second, or like with the shells move, like
so
when
good.
the artillery is, I guess, going down or whatever. That was amazing. That, I think Anakin coming back, and I think this is probably the best Hayden Christensen we've gotten on screen.
Yeah. This. Also, kudos to that kid who played young Ahsoka. Like, she looked fucking perfect.
You know who that girl is? That's the daughter from Barbie movie.
Yeah, I forgot about that. I did hear about that, and I was just straight up like, what?
Yeah, everything. She did a great job as a young Ahsoka. I really enjoyed that. But just having Anakin there worked so well. And I like that they took out like the George Lucas style whiny Anakin and put in the Clone Wars style I don't whine Anakin from the cartoon. And I'm like,
I'm a general, I'm here to take charge.
This is so good. And just the way he talks, like if you watch him in even episode 3, it's not fair. And then in this one, he's just like, fail, choose death or life. And I'm like, this is so good. Everything feels so good. That was easily, that episode goes next to the Boba Fett and Luke episodes of Mandalorian season 2 as the top 3 best Star Wars of Disney is done, or those 3 episodes now.
Literally that entire episode, I was just like riveted and just like eyes glued to the screen the entire time.
And the fact that they use the paths in it, the paths of the Force that you get in that Rebel episode with Ezra, makes it even better. And then I will say I really did love seeing him at the end of the show, like just kind of watching as a Force ghost.
Yeah.
And I'm like, is that his send-off? But I'm like, bro, just if you're doing Ahsoka season 2, put him in again. Just give us more Anakin. Like, I want more Anakin. I just,
dude,
I
that would be so cool.
I want more Anakin. Give us more Anakin.
Well, because like supposedly Qui-Gon supposedly spent years talking to Obi-Wan in the desert to like train him how to do all this shit.
Oh
like,
yeah, and in that wonderful.
Wouldn't it be cool if Anakin just keeps showing up? Oh yeah.
Oh hey, how's it go? Someone edited it so it looks like he's wearing vacation clothing or something. He's got like a sun hat and shit, and he's like, "Oh, what's up, Obi-Wan? I'm here." So stupid. Oh my god, what a stupid
it's
show.
So weird to me that I literally forget that the Obi-Wan show even exists.
And it's like, I think it's funny that we're like, we know Qui-Gon comes back as a Force ghost because at the end of episode 3, and it was just how bad that show was, and him just showing up like that was just like.
We have to have a chase where someone is chasing Luke but never sees a lightsaber, so that the line in episode 4 makes sense, where he's like, I've never seen one of these before.
Oh hey, mahalo, Obi-Wan. Let's go train over there, bro. We're gonna do training. It's really how it went. Oh my god, what is that show is bad. But yeah, I just desperately want more Anakin now. It's so good the way they did that. That was amazing. I
feel so good for Hayden Christensen. Like he
probably feels so good about that.
For like
him and Ahmed Best, who played Jar Jar, they get applause now when they go anywhere. They really do deserve that. I really think they got such a shit end of the stick, and it wasn't even his fucking acting's
Dude,
fault.
yeah,
It
it's like,
was George.
dude, George
I
Lucas
still
was the
love
one that
George,
told him
but
to
George.
act like that.
And it's like we just were like George. It's all the. It's not Hayden's fault. It's just George. It's not George's fault. He just needed more people to say no.
Yeah.
That's
Dude,
really what it was. He needed less yes men. I
the
mean, it
red
was just,
letter.
now it's like we can just say it's Disney's fault.
Yeah. One of the funniest moments in the red letter media, like reviews of the prequel trilogy movies is like there's a shot where I guess it's like from behind the scenes or whatever, and it's like Lucas giving a direction to how he wants Hayden Christensen to act in a certain scene, and like the look on Christensen's face is like, this guy's a fucking moron, but okay, I'll do it.
So good. What would you say for Ahsoka's show? Was Ahsoka the protagonist?
I mean, she was supposed to be, but she
Okay.
was kind of like one of the least interesting characters. I don't know. It's
We have our
weird.
character, the main character of the show. We call him the protagonist.
It's funny because like the entire show, she seemed very like subdued in how she
like I said,
acted and moved, but I think that was intentional.
Yeah.
So
I do, like I said, what did I used the word earlier. It started with a C. It was like she was contained.
Yeah.
She was just really contained, and it felt same with Hera. Hera was also contained. They just felt contained, and then you let Sabine run wild, and we were like, no, not Sabine.
I mean, I know it's like probably just like partly personal preference, but one of the scenes where I was just like, there's something off about this was later on when they're like doing their mad dash to try to get to Thrawn before he leaves, and they're fighting like a room full of stormtroopers, and Ahsoka is just, she does like a spinny move with her lightsabers to block shots, but she moves so slowly that I'm like, I think what they're going for is she's just like that in tune with the Force that she doesn't have to do quick movements.
A lot of speed, yeah.
But it ends up looking like boring, unfortunately, to at least to me.
I get that. But I don't know if I have anything else on this. I think that's really everything. I guess overall, how did you feel about Ahsoka? Like,
I think overall, I was just kind of like okay on the show, and I think a lot of that is just like there were a couple scenes that were really really good, and the rest of the show is just kind of like okay.
Yeah.
So it balances out to like that was a good show for me, I guess.
I enjoyed myself.
Yeah.
I guess this is the easiest thing to say. I don't think it's up there. It's definitely not up there with Andor.
That was a weird thing. I was so much more hyped on Ahsoka than Andor, and I was like, how are they going to make an Andor show? That guy dies.
You're like, oh, this is the best show that you fucking made. How the hell did you guys make a show this good?
I didn't know this show could make me feel things.
I think it's below Andor and Mandalorian, and it's easily above like Obi-Wan, and it's above Boba Fett. Yeah, is where it stands. I think it's closer to the Mandalorian than it is to Boba Fett, but it's also not, it's fucking, they just kind of fucked up Boba Fett. Halfway. I think it's half good, half bad. Otherwise, like I said, it had one of the most interesting characters in Baylan Skoll, and it had one of the best moments of Anakin and Ahsoka. So it has things that are pivotal and things that you can't really even go up against now. Like those are going to be, there's like Hall of Fame things that you got one character, one moment are now Hall of Famers, I feel like, for Disney Star Wars and just Star Wars in general. But otherwise going forward, like, okay, so we've gotten Ahsoka, we've gotten 3 seasons of Mandalorian, we've gotten Andor, we've gotten, the second season of Visions and shit. We basically have one more season of Andor. We have one more season of Bad Batch. We don't know what's happening next for Mandalorian. We have that Skeleton Crew show with Jude Law, whatever the fuck that is. And we have that Acolyte High Republic show about the Sith. How do we see this going forward with Thrawn? Because what we know about is there's like the books that are supposed to be like the 3 main books to bridge like the original trilogy to the new trilogy. I forget what it's called. It's like Aftermath and some other ones, but I think Thrawn shows up in those. I'm pretty sure. So it's like we get Thrawn in this, and it leads into that book, which I think has like a lot of the characters we like from the original trilogy in it. But does that mean, is Thrawn going to be a center point for Ahsoka still in season 2 if they do a season 2? Or is it going to be...
probably. I want to say he'd probably be the Ahsoka villain, because one thing that I guess worries me, we already know that this Thrawn stuff doesn't go anywhere. Because by episode 7, he's already been taken care of.
Yeah.
They never even mention like the Thrawn rebellion or anything. Like,
they pretty much, I feel like they're slowly trying to make the First Order happen. Maybe. In terms of this world. Like, I think they're leading to the creation of the First Order or something like that. But I'm going to be completely honest. I could give 2 shits about the creation of the First Order. I could give 2 shits about the start of Snoke. I could give 2 shits about that entire conspiracy that they're like doing in the back of like creation of Snoke and the Palpatine coming back, and I guess they're gonna use Grogu somehow and shit. And I'm like,
maybe, although I think the Grogu plot was just a Moff Gideon thing, but
maybe it's hard to say.
Maybe, I don't know.
Because the whole thing is like, Clone Wars improved the prequels. It did a little bit, at least for 2 and 3. Like, it made you feel there was more substance between them.
It is weird how much that show like improves that like arc.
So I think for all the new, like the in between stuff like Mandalorian, like Boba Fett, like Ahsoka now, and I think they're using that to do that for the sequel trilogy. I think they're trying to build around it to make it feel more like you're going to go back and watch these movies and feel better about them, which I highly doubt for these ones. Prequels, at least, I said it even before it was improved. I enjoyed them. They're stupid, but I have a good time with these movies because they're fun at least, and they're still trying something completely different than the original trilogy.
I think maybe this all started with Rogue One, where they used that movie to try to like plug a plot hole, sort of, if you want to call it that, where it's just like, for years people were like, why would they design the Death Star to have one single exhaust vent that could blow up the entire thing if you shoot at it? And it's like, oh well, what if an engineer intentionally designed it like that so that someone could have a chance? And they saw that like people actually kind of liked that, and they're like, oh, so we can fill the picture in later. Okay, then let's try that.
So we think Ahsoka is going to go after Thrawn again. Her and Sabine will find a way out, but that also, you ask, how are they going to get out? How is Shinhati? What's Shinhati going to do? She's like with those tribal people. What's Lord Balin going to do? He's potentially looking at the roots of the Force. What's Hera going to do? She was right, and that dude was a dipshit, and Thrawn's going to be back. What's Thrawn going to do? Is he going to reunite the warlords under one banner, being back, and be like, follow me on Blue Bitch? And what's going to happen here? I think all of these are going to be, if we're thinking this is season 2, I think season 2, in terms of these characters, can be more interesting than this season. I don't know if Lord Balin will be as interesting with the recasting, but they could still try. It's going to be hard to say.
The only one that pops to mind, and I don't know if they want to spend the money on him, but they could get George Clooney and just have him grow a beard, and he kind of looks like him.
Yeah.
And he's a good actor, so he could do it.
Did you say George Clooney?
Yeah. That kind of work?
Fuck, that works. Holy shit. It's kind of weird. That's a lot more expensive though, but yeah,
that's the thing. It's like, do they want to pay for George Clooney money?
I mean, I feel like he's not doing anything anymore. It's fine. Just
He showed up in the Flash for 2
yeah, he shows up in the
seconds.
Flash. It's fucking stupid. Yeah, just get him to do this. Just give him like $10. He'll be fine. He doesn't need more money anyway. To be honest, like fuck.
Nah.
Yeah, just have George Clooney. Fucking. He has to beef up though, because Lord Balin was a little bit thicker.
Yeah, he was
Clooney's kind of scrawny.
jacked.
Yeah, Clooney's got trained for this. But I think whatever Balin's gonna do is probably gonna be the most interesting thing that I want to know about the most. I want Shinhati and him to live. Like, I want to see those characters do more. That's why I was like, fuck, they're gonna die. This is gonna suck if they just kick the bucket. So I definitely want a lot more out of them. I'm afraid it's like, if they keep eliminating enemies, then like Elspeth Morgan, they had to kill Morgan. Elspeth they had to kill someone. So it's like, all right, she's dead. But we still have Captain Enoch, we have Thrawn, we have the Night Sister trilogy right there. We have Lord Balin, and we have Shinhati. And I feel like Shinhati, if anyone, could also turn.
Yeah.
She seems more like she's so curious about everything. She like asked him so many things, and he's like blah blah blah. I could see Ahsoka like potentially turning her. Maybe she almost did at one point, but she was like, "Nah, I'm getting the fuck out of here."
Yeah,
but it's hard to say.
well, that's the thing. Like, she's not dark. She's just like curious, I guess.
Yeah,
and wants to learn how to use her powers and stuff.
I can't get canceled for this. She's bi-curious in the Force. More or less. But yeah, it's gonna be interesting. And they're announcing more High Republic shit, I think, right now too. They're like the third wave of High Republic's coming in now. And they're still focusing on that for like comics and books and whatnot. But otherwise we're still getting this for the shows. I think, like, aside from Andor season 2, there's not much I'm looking forward to. Like, I'm curious how that Acolyte's gonna go. I'm curious how the fuck Skeleton Crew even is. But I otherwise I'm not really like, oh boy, the next Star Wars thing. And I'm also just kind of Disneyed out at the same time too, because quality for so many things have been dropping that I'm just kind of like,
that's the thing. Like, they focus so hard on having basically something in either the theaters or on Disney Plus literally every month at this point. So it gets tiring. Like, I
mean, look at this now. Marvel movies aren't even coming out next year. They all got pushed back. Captain America 4 and Thunderbolts got pushed to 2025. The only one coming out is Deadpool 3, which I'm like, that's fine.
Yeah.
Works for me. Oh wait, now they're gonna be, oh god, that means they have to share the same year. No, I don't want to see those movies, because they're, DC's doing the more interesting shit in 2025. We're getting Superman Legacy and Batman 2.
Strangely, that's the stuff I'm most interested in, just because I want to see if James Gunn can actually like turn stuff. I don't want to even say turn stuff around, because like, he's kind of starting.
Then we're getting a sequel to Batman too, and we're just like, bro, that's gonna be amazing. Yeah,
I forgot about that. But yeah, like, so for Star Wars and Marvel, I guess, if to an extent, but like for Star Wars, I'll probably watch most of the stuff that they're putting out. Like, I'm interested in the Acolyte. I'm a little bit interested in the High Republic show that they mentioned, but like at this point, like, yeah, Andor, I'm definitely crazy excited for, because I could not believe how much I liked that show. But Ahsoka just being kind of okay, or good. Obi-Wan being okay to maybe good, depending on how you look at it. I'm
Obi-Wan,
just
I
like,
think, is bad.
Yeah, and I just like, I'm not excited for most Star Wars stuff now. I'm just like, oh, okay, there's another thing to watch. Oh, and Bad Batch, I was like really excited for, and then I just like have not been liking it, unfortunately.
Yeah, I'm just like, I hope they can turn it around for season 3, but we'll see.
Yeah, it has so much potential, but it's just like, I don't like half the characters, or at least one character specifically.
But we got to do the good thing for the good people.
Omega, you just fuck everything up every single time.
Yeah. All right, I think that's everything. I hope you guys enjoyed us coming in and ranting nonstop about how you could tell how much we love Star Wars by how much we complain about Star Wars.
It's one of those things where it's like, we love it, so we know it could do better, and it's just really unfortunate.
I'm not mad, I'm disappointed.
Exactly. It's just really unfortunate to see Disney going like we got to make more stuff because everyone needs to watch something new all the time. And
I think
so
everyone's also, I think now the more casual common folk, I don't mean to say it as degrading or anything, but the more like everyday people that aren't as into this, that just go, I'm going to watch it, are now kind of also noticing the Disney quality drops too.
Yeah,
I think it's becoming more common to see among everyday people.
I mean, one of the things that's easiest to see is like it was a phenomenon back in the day when the prequel movies came out. Like that was an insane period of years where people were just like, "Oh my god, there's like one more Star Wars coming out," or stuff like that. And now, and then like when episode 7 came out, people were like, "Oh my god!" After like 20, 30 years, I'm so bad with time, but it's just like after so many years, there's another Star Wars coming out. And fast forward like however many years it's been, like not even 10, and people are like, okay, I think that's enough. I think we're good. We're getting a little far there.
Yeah. All right. I think that's everything. I hope you guys enjoyed this. Of course, follow us, I guess, for now on Instagram at Sutro Sidetalk. Keep up there because that's kind of where I guess I'll reveal stuff. Otherwise, listen to the show for the next news of like, at a certain point, you're gonna have to subscribe to new stuff when the new shows come out. I'm not saying like you have to pay money on Apple Podcasts. We're not going to do that. That'll still be free on here or like Spotify or whatever. But it'll just be new things you'll have to subscribe to. It'll be like Sutro SideWatch, Sutro SidePlay, Cut of Steel. They're all going to be separate. They're not going to be on the same channel anymore. So like they'll all be different ones. And if you like games more, just go to SidePlay. If you like movies and television stuff more, go to SideWatch. If you like DC shit, go to Cut of Steel. That kind of thing. I'll hopefully have more news sooner rather than later. But we'll just see. Otherwise, that's pretty much everything. Tune in, I guess, early December for our Godzilla -1 episode. That'll be probably when we do 199. And then I think around end of December, early January is probably when we'll do 200. And we'll end it there with our 2023 interview kind of thing. That is, I think, what our plan is. So just 2 more episodes left, and then we'll be relaunching, hopefully.
Yeah.
But yeah, that is everything. I hope you guys enjoyed it. We'll catch you next time. So long.
Thanks for listening.